conference is taking place in Europe right now. Might sound like a line out of a storybook, but the annual Bilderberg conference really is as elusive as it sounds. This is where a group of elite members from all over the globe meet annually to discuss big business and the global economy. Now, the conference is an unofficial, yet invitation-only gathering that doesn't allow any press, and nor will they publicly release the names of those that attend. See, back in 1954, Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands invited a group of European and Western leaders to come to the Bilderberg Hotel for a weekend conference. Now, the purpose of the conference was designed to improve Atlanticism, or the cultural and political relations between America and European nations. So the first conference proved to be so successful that annual meetings began after that, and an informal network of contacts began to develop between those countries. So eventually, some of the world's most powerful bankers, politicians, and businessmen would all be invited back to further discuss the economic fate of the world. Now, over time, word got out about these meetings, and theories started swirling as to what the shadow elite could really be up to. Activist groups accused the Bilderberg participants of secretive and sinful plots against the rest of the world, and many others out there also share their skepticism. Now, fast forward to 2010, where this year's conference is being held in Sitges, Spain. It's a beautiful beach town just outside of Barcelona, and believe me, it really is a gorgeous place. I've been there. But while the global elite are gathering in luxury, protesters have followed them. Now, earlier I caught up with RT correspondent Laura Emmett, who's in Sitges right now. And I first asked her to describe exactly what we do know about this most secretive gathering in the world.
We've seen the delegates arriving today, Thursday, in Sitges for this incredibly secretive meeting, the Bilderberg Group, as you say. And we've also seen a lot of protests. I'm standing at the scene of the protests. The main entrance to the hotel at which the Bilderberg Group is meeting is just behind me. Lots of protesters here today from all over the world, really. Lots from inside Spain, of course, many from around Europe, and also a few Americans have come here to show their displeasure. And they're not showing their displeasure at the fact that the Bilderberg Group is meeting per se. What bothers them is the secrecy that surrounds this meeting, and that has surrounded it ever since its inception in 1954. The Bilderberg Group has been meeting every year since then, and every year no media has been allowed to cover the event inside. We're all camped outside here with the protesters. Some interesting signs we've seen today from the protesters, some of the banners that they were holding up, talking a lot about slavery, the fact that they felt enslaved to the Bilderberg Group. The Bilderberg Group are the secret rulers of the world, one of the banners read. It's a psychopathic elite, we are not your slaves. And also, Bilderberg Group, are you going to let them decide your future? So really, a lot of anger about the secrecy surrounding this meeting. But some people who've been watching the meeting for a long time also say that it's not only incredibly secretive and therefore not useful to the rest of us, but it's also potentially illegal. There's something called the Logan Act in the United States that says that elected officials in the US are not allowed to hold policy meetings with foreign officials, and that's exactly what these people are doing here today. And it seems that if that law exists in the US, there's no reason why it wouldn't exist in other countries from which the delegates come. So that's another interesting point.
Well, it seems like they might try to get around the rules, because I know that, for example, Richard Holbrooke, the U.S. Special Envoy to Afghanistan and Pakistan, is supposed to be in attendance, but he, of course, is not an elected official. Who else might be there, do you know?
Well, I think the other way, Aliona, if I may, is that they get around is they say this is not a policy meeting. It's sort of a steering group, really, where people come together, discuss what potentially could become policies in the future, and then go away and try to softly implement them. One of the stalwarts of the Bilderberg meeting is David Rockefeller. He's been coming since the year dot. Henry Kissinger as well, Ben Bernanke, Tim Geithner is also rumoured to be here. It's apparently been more difficult than in previous years to get a list of participants. No one has come out of the hotel to give that to journalists today. So we're still a little bit in the dark as to who is actually here. But there are rumoured to be representatives of the British royal family, of the Swedish royal family. Queen Sofia of Spain is also rumoured to be in attendance. There are all sorts of delegates from all over the world. International finance, central banking, government, of course, industry, and the media, which is interesting. Media people, top media people, are invited, but only on the understanding that they don't report anything that goes on inside.
Well, that's a little odd for the media to be there but not be allowed to say anything that's happening. But what do you think we can expect to be on the agenda, perhaps the global economic crisis, since this is the gathering of the most powerful people in the world?
Very much so, and one of the aims of the Bilderberg Group, according to people who follow them closely and who have been following them for a long time, is the creation of a new world order, and that involves a new economic order, which is very much based on reducing the number of currencies that exist in the world, making the International Monetary Fund into a world treasury, reducing the number of currencies, and having more centralisation. And of course, it's a particularly bad time for that at the moment. Last year's Bilderberg meeting was held in Greece, which of course is under immense pressure at the moment. It's gone bankrupt. There's talk of it potentially leaving the Eurozone. And of course the Euro is seen as the first step towards implementing that one world currency. So you have these huge economic blocs rather than individual countries ruling their own economic agendas. So the Bilderberg Group is potentially very frightened of that, the fact that the euro is much, much weaker than it was before, and that countries that are in trouble, such as Spain, will leave the euro, and then in fact the euro will fall apart. So that means that they will move away from this embryonic global currency that the Bilderbergers have been trying to encourage for such a long time.
All right, well, that was Laura Emma reporting for us from Sitges, Spain. Laura, thank you so much for filling us in, and hopefully some kind of information will come out as to who really does end up attending and what will be discussed at this very secretive Bilderberg meeting. Well, we've got one more segment ahead on tonight's show. First